My name's Olivia. I'm flattered to be introduced as an expert in youth employment. I've only worked at Youth Employment UK for 6 weeks, so I am armed with lots of information for you today, but if anyone has any questions, I will do my absolute best to answer them, but I might have to go away and find answers from actual experts on youth employment to answer any questions that you might have. But Shanice is absolutely right. Youth Employment UK, as an organisation, we are solely armed to tackle youth unemployment. We are Northamptonshire based, we're based in Kettering, we work nationwide, and we were founded in 2012 with that sole purpose, to tackle youth unemployment, and we've kind of carried that on in a number of different ways. Now, obviously, youth unemployment in 2012 and youth unemployment in 2025 are two very different things. It has evolved and it's changed quite a lot, but we now try to tackle youth unemployment, kind of a three-pronged approach generally at Youth Employment UK. We talk to young people directly. We ask them what is and what isn't working, and we do that through extensive research and outreach with young people directly, whether that's through schools and colleges, their educators, or with them directly. And we also provide a huge number of tools directly for young people as well. So whether that is, we have free online courses, virtual work experience, careers advice directly for young people. We are also a member organisation, so we have a huge network of over 1,000 employers that we support, and we provide that support to help them shape their best practice in supporting the young people that work for them or the young people they would like to recruit. So that's a huge part of what we do. And what we do is we take that insight and the data that we gain from young people, educators, employers, and we use all that insight to then have conversations with policymakers. So we kind of go to the top level and we're influencing policy and the system from the top down to create the best possible solutions for young people. So that's who we are at Youth Employment UK. So I'm here today to hopefully just provide a bit of insight into the landscape of the minute for youth unemployment, not necessarily from a music perspective, just kind of top level information. I appreciate I've not got loads of time, so it's going to be top level at best in terms of how deep we're going to go. So in terms of the current landscape for youth employment, I appreciate a lot of you already work with young people, you work in youth employment, so hopefully I'm not going to be kind of reinventing the wheel and telling you things that you don't already know. But youth unemployment has been a rising issue in the country since 2005, so a long, long time. And the recent rises that we see, and I'm sure none of this will be a surprise to any of you, comes in these three main areas, and that is health issues, whether that's mental health, physical health, so long-term sick, is a really kind of rising issue in terms of youth unemployment. Education, so whether that's gaps in education, but also more people choosing to stay on in higher education, full-time education, and then caring responsibilities. And that's not necessarily just for young people, that is across the board in all ages that we see. But what we're still seeing, even now, 5 years later, is the impact of COVID. We are still seeing the impact on the gaps in education and development of young people and children who were going through education during lockdown. And obviously we came straight out of lockdown and COVID-19 into a cost of living crisis. So we have more children and young people than ever before living in poverty. And for a lot of young people, it feels like social mobility is going backwards for them. So that's something we really need to consider. And we're supporting our young people. And what we obviously know is that youth unemployment, being long periods of unemployment at this stage, do have their long-term effects on young people all throughout their lives. So those young people are maybe less likely to access those higher paying roles in the future, later on in life, and they're more likely to experience those subsequent periods of unemployment as they go forward, what we call long-term scarring. So we need to consider that. And it's not just about thinking about the impact on that individual young person who may be unemployed. We also need to think about the wider scale impact, so the impact on the economy when those young people are unemployed. So the Work and Living Institute issued some stats and some data suggest that the fiscal cost of large-scale unemployment with youth in the last 4 years could have cost the economy £31 billion. That's a huge, huge number. And what we do at Youth Employment UK, as I mentioned, is that we kind of gather and we talk to young people about what their experiences are. Rather than just thinking about them as numbers, we try to make sure we're actually gathering their thoughts, their experiences, and we do that through the Youth Voice Census, which is the largest survey of its kind in the UK. Last year, we had over 5,000 respondents. And we ask young people about their thoughts and experiences with careers education, employment, unemployment, safety, social media, their local area. It has over 200 questions, this survey. And last year, what the biggest findings were, and you can kind of read the whole report online if you'd like to go and have a look, the young people were citing kind of these two main barriers that they were finding when it came to finding employment. And the first kind of strand of that was a lack of work experience and quality job opportunities, mostly in their local areas. And that was across the board. So them having access to, first of all, the experiences that are going to help them get the jobs, and then finding the jobs in the first place, then when they got to that stage, were a real barrier for young people. And then secondly, again, this unfortunately won't come as a surprise to a lot of you, was the mental health and anxiety. And we've seen a large rise in that with young people, but they have a lot of anxiety about lots of different things. The key areas that we saw that they were anxious about were money, because of cost of living, discrimination, safety, all came up as, yes, they were worried about employment, but they were anxious about these areas, and that was then having a knock-on effect to their access to employment. I could spend forever talking about the youth voice census, but we'll carry on. I just wanted to give you kind of a top-level idea and kind of some stats about youth employment, especially right now. So this was April 2025. I appreciate, probably can't see that very well, but I'm hoping these slides will be shared afterwards as well. So this is from the ONS. So we're looking at this, at the teeniest to tiniest little rise in employment in April, which is good news, from November to January, sorry. And that has kind of stayed at that point. Youth unemployment in the UK sits at just over 4% at the minute, but with young people, it's over 14%. So we do kind of see that disparity at the minute. And at the minute in the UK, there are 987,000 NEET young people. So this is why we do the work that we do, why we're all here today, to help to tackle that as a problem. And generally, we kind of, again, we don't want to generalize the young people, but we kind of have these 6 areas of the systemic issues of why young people are facing challenges when it comes to employment. So we know for a fact that who young people are is going to affect their ability to access the kind of those quality roles. So things like if they have a disability, they come from an ethnic minority background, they are a care leaver, they're a member of the LGBT community, etc. These are things that can't be helped, but they are things that affect that young person's ability to access quality employment. A big piece of feedback that we got, as I've already mentioned, from our Youth Voice census was where they live. So we know that young people in rural communities, in coastal towns especially, are having access to physically accessing jobs. If they just happen to live in an area that doesn't have very good public transport, that is then kind of slashing the opportunities that they have to access work experience and then to access jobs as well. So we need to make sure that we're kind of bridging those gaps with things like virtual work experience, with working from home opportunities, different kind of ways that we can support young people to physically access the jobs that they would like to get to. Now, we know in the UK that there is generally a lack of quality vocational pathways, and that's something we're really trying to work towards at the moment. And there is generally a gap between what education is providing and what employers are looking for. And that's kind of a lot of the work that a lot of us obviously are doing in the moment, is to try and bridge that gap. And we see gaps in things as well, like still kind of that big disparity between GCSE requirements that can still put a massive barrier in the way for young people and accessing the roles they'd like to. We can also think on a larger scale as well about what's affecting young people, and that is the global issue. So we've already talked about COVID-19, but also things like war in Ukraine and Palestine, the Trump administration. Young people feel more vulnerable than ever before, and because of social media, they are hyper aware of global issues, and because of that, they are, like we said, they are anxious. And they need more support, well-being support with things like global issues, because that is affecting them and their mental health. When we talk about access to opportunities, yes, we talk about physical access, like where they live, but we also have access in terms of things like work experience opportunities and virtual work experience, but also things like we have an aging work population. The rise in the retirement age means that just generally there are less jobs going around. So this is when we need to work with employers, and this is what we do at Youth Employment UK, working with employers to improve the access to those opportunities for young people. And finally, this one sometimes feels slightly intuitive, but policy initiatives. Obviously, there is so much good work going on in government to support young people. But that takes a lot of time. I'm sure a lot of us have had experiences with the huge amount of red tape that comes with anything that's policy related. So I've just got a couple of slides just to give you an idea of what is, I'm not going to read all this out, don't worry, but what is going on kind of just in the background policy-wise at the moment. So we've got the Employment Rights Bill, the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill, Curriculum and Assessment Overview, Skills England is having a big revamp, Get Britain Working, Keep Britain Working. So just to give you an idea of how much is going on in the background and how slow some of it can be. And also changes in government have had a massive effect on kind of different initiatives that were in place and now not in place. So again, all of these things just slowly, but they do have that knock-on effect for young people. So what do we, as Youth Employment UK, kind of do to tackle this as best we can? So as I mentioned, we kind of do have that three-pronged approach. So we do work with employers. We have a network of over 1,000 employers that we provide support to. And as I said, we're kind of trying to bridge that gap, and we're trying to embolden employers to think about more than just qualifications and quality work experience, but to also think about skills and behaviour that young people have that could help them to access that high quality work. We also work with educators, schools, colleges, ITPs. We have what's called the Young Professional Programme, which is a completely free membership for schools, colleges, ITPs to join. And that is a massive catalogue of free online careers resources to be used by educators directly with young people to help, again, to kind of bridge that gap, so to help them take everything that they have got. And some we all know from working with young people, they've sometimes got their own huge catalogues of skills that they don't really realise they have. So we're trying to make sure that careers, education, employability is at the forefront of what young people are receiving when it comes to education. And we do that through that Young Professional Programme as well. And then we also are trying to, and this is what's really key for today, we're also trying to make sure that when we got our Youth Voice Census results last year, a key finding from young people was that they were lacking in activities. They wanted youth activities. They wanted access to things like youth clubs, extracurricular activities, the arts and performance opportunities that they weren't getting. And whether that was through physically being able to access them and that they just didn't exist in the town or city where they lived, but also being aware of them, being like kind of we saw in the video, there being enough space, people saying we'd love more students to be involved, we'd love more people, we'd love it to run for longer. And young people feel the same as well. And that is some of the feedback. So that's again something that kind of we work towards at Youth Employment UK, trying to establish those youth activities with as many kind of providers as we possibly can too. And what we do is we take all of that, so all of the insight, all the information that we receive, and we take that to government and we have those conversations. So as an organisation, we are leaders of the Youth Employment Group. We are a secretariat for the cross-party parliamentary group for youth employment. Everything starts with youth employment, so I get all my acronyms mixed up. But it means that we are well connected and we have the grounding to call ourselves experts in this area, to provide the insights so that we can have those conversations with policymakers to influence the systemic change that is needed. So, told you I could talk about it all day, the Youth Voice Census. But I just want to reiterate again those key findings. It's a nice snapshot of all the things that I've already talked about, of what we find at Youth Employment UK and the key kind of findings from last year. So you can see here, like we've already talked about, so we've got one, that anxiety that we mentioned is really affecting young people. And then what we saw as well is young people having a lack of confidence in the opportunity. So they're not sure that they have the right skills or the knowledge or the experience to be able to access what they think is out there. And this is when it's great when organisations and kind of initiatives come through, things like telling people exactly how to get into the music industry. They're the sort of things that young people are kind of crying out for, which is fantastic. We then have, as we said, kind of access to opportunities and access to that quality work. So kind of everything I've already talked about already. Like, lost a bit of words there. That's fun. I haven't got loads of time to get through this. This is a really great visual that I kind of will just end on for you. And thinking about, again, the access. And when we talk about access to opportunities, this is kind of what we mean. This is a kind of quite dramatic funnel, but to show you that if we had a pool of, however many young people graduating from a university or finishing school or college, and seeing how quickly as employers and we can lose kind of young people that could be fantastic for a particular role, but if we're immediately asking for maths and English GCSE pass at first time, we're immediately losing 40% of the young people that we could be employing. If we're asking young people to write a CV exactly how we would like it, we're then losing another chunk of young people because they might not have had that support at school or college. They might not be at school or college to be able to get that support. They might not have somebody at home who has written a CV before who could help them in that sense. And the same as it goes on for work experience, accessing the work locally, until we've got quite a dramatic little point at the end there of kind of where we're losing young people. And that's where we, as educators and employers, can start to work through to build ourselves up to create more access for those opportunities as well. So what I'd love to look, I went crazy with the slides because I thought if this slide deck is shared afterwards, I'm going to fill it up. So what I would really just love to share with you is that Youth Voice Census that I've harped on about for the last 15 minutes. 2025 census is open now. It's open for another 2 weeks. It's open until the 6th of June. I would really encourage you, those of you who work with young people, the young people that are in the room with us today, to share your thoughts, your voice, and to encourage young people to fill out the census. It's anybody from age 11 to age 30. So we at Youth Employment UK think that young people age goes all the way through. And it's a fantastic way to kind of share thoughts and genuinely influence change. The results of this survey, the influence policy, we take it to government and showed in Parliament. So we would really encourage any young people to fill it out before the 6th of June. That would be lovely. Thank you very much. And I will leave it there because I'm aware that we're kind of running over. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to come and have a chat. If you'd like some resources about the Youth Voice Census, give me your email address and I can send them to you. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great day.